Just in the news flash that protesters are protesting in New York City about our involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. Charlie Rangel's there, Congressman Charlie Rangel's there in support of this. And it's very interesting that they are, for us, getting out of what appears to be a somewhat successful endeavor in Iraq, bringing people freedom. Afghanistan, maybe the jury is still out on that. Although at the time we got in, everybody, both Democrats and Republicans, were gung ho for it because that's where the terrorists came from, although that's where they were trained or whatever. That's who took credit for the 9/11 incident, even though most of them were Saudis, spoiled Saudi brats who had nothing better to do. So they decided to crash planes into the World Trade Center and the like. Gave them purpose in life. Any event, there's no mention. No one, the media, it's unbelievable. The media has not asked these protesters what do they think about our involvement in Libya at this point. I mean, would that not be an interesting journalistic question to ask? I really don't care what they say, but I think the question, well, actually I do, but I think the question bears asking if you're a journalist. No, it's so obvious to me that the media is so biased in what they want us to hear, and they still have this hatred towards George Bush on Iraq and Afghanistan, even though these same people seem to be, and I'm saying seem to be, for us getting involved in Egypt when there was the rioting over there, and obviously now there's a revolution over in Libya, and they would want us to get involved over there. I think, but the media won't ask the question. They won't ask the question to these same people, is it okay to go into Libya? Now, at first we were told that this was just to protect civilians, and originally we weren't involved because we figured the civilians, quote civilians, could take care of the situation and overthrow Gaddafi. And apparently Gaddhafi was able to make a rally and take back a lot of land, at least the important land. And it was going after the people who were trying to overthrow them. Now, as I said in the previous video, that we went into Iraq in order to get the enemy. In Afghanistan, we're constantly blowing up, quote, innocent people. Somehow that's okay. Apparently it's okay to kill a few civilians if you get more of the enemy. When the Israelis go into Palestine or whatever they do with their famous raids, they have no problem killing innocent civilians. Of course, according to them, there is no such thing as innocent civilians. Either you're, what did George Bush say? Either you're with us or you're against us, or either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. So it's very interesting, this double standard we're seeing. There's no fly zones over Iraq. And by the way, before we got involved in Iraq, there was an uprising there. We did nothing. Didn't even give them any. Actually, we gave them a little bit of encouragement to uprise over Saddam Hussein, and they were subsequently wiped out. These people who took us for our word. So I don't know. It's a crazy world. It's a very crazy world, and the media basically. I don't know who's giving them the marching orders. But for instance, they refer to pro-Gaddafi forces. They don't talk about the Libyan army or Libyan Air Force. It's pro-Gaddafi forces. Now, that would mean that every time the United States gets involved, like over in Afghanistan and over in Iraq, they are pro-Obama forces fighting over there, not the American people's forces. I mean, a lot of American people don't want us over there, so you could say that they should be saying pro-Obama forces from now on. And anytime we interdict, pro-Obama forces launch cruise missiles to take out radar things. Now, if there were hundreds of people surrounding, innocent civilians surrounding all these defenses, radar stuff, and they were killed, would that be considered the same thing as Gaddafi's doing? I mean, I'd really like to know. Because ultimately it seems that if you can surround yourself by civilians while you're operating a campaign to overthrow a country, apparently you can't be touched, and if you are touched and innocent people get killed, then the people trying to snuff out that dissent are terrible. And look, the UN recognized Libya, all right? I'm sure there was all kinds of ambassadors going back and forth. We know there was a connection between the Brits, and that's why they released that guy who's supposedly dying. And for humanitarian reasons, they released him to go back to Libya. So, I mean, prior to this, everybody thought Gaddafi was okay and Libya was okay, and the UN took their dues or whatever the heck it is. People bought their oil, and all of a sudden now, the guy's an outcast. Well, he might have been an outcast. Reagan mentioned that a long time ago. No one seemed to listen, and the UN put the Libya on some I guess sensitive councils. I don't know if it was on human rights or whatever. But you have to admit this whole thing is totally crazy, and you won't even get the questions answered. I don't think by Fox News. Like I said, these people who are against our involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan, they won't ask them about our involvement in other places. And no one's bringing up, once again, the Taiwanese who have a democracy, which China's going to snuff out. It's just a matter of time. No one's going to ask them about it. No one. We're being manipulated. You can't see that we're being manipulated by the media as to who we're supposed to feel sorry for. So that's basically it. So from now on in the news, we have to talk about pro-Obama forces, not the Navy, not the American Navy, not the American Air Force, not the American Marines or Special Forces, Obama Air Force, pro-Obama Air Force personnel. I think it's hilarious, this whole thing. I mean, Libya is a country, still is a country. They still have their leader, whether duly elected or not. They have a leader. They had a set of laws, I'm sure. I'm sure they have judges in Libya. Maybe they just execute everybody, I don't know. But I'm sure they have a set of laws, whether you like them or not, whether they meet our standard of constitutionality. But then again, apparently our Constitution doesn't mean too much either. So that's about it from the bunkers here in the mountains of Watchung. And I guess you have to take this with a grain of salt. You have to take it with a sense of humor, and realize that there are a few of you out there who actually have a sense of what's going on and are not hypnotized or under some spell. That's about it. So we're going to call it a day and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.